love. The perfect love drives out fear. Because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us. Sermon title is called Conversion Factors. What goes into having our hearts changed. Sometimes in conversions you have situations where you just have a hard heart. You're upset, you're angry, you're hurt, and it's hard to change when God is trying to change you. Sometimes you're not angry, sometimes you're not hurt, or so you don't think, but you are so certain that your plan is God's plan, that God has a hard time trying to get you to open up so that you can hear God's plan as well. Conversion factors. This is one of the greatest conversion stories in the Bible, Zacchaeus. Here is a man who was incredibly wealthy, and he was a tax collector. Now, you may think that tax collectors are hated because you don't like the IRS, right? No one really likes taxes. No one does. I mean, it's the fact. We can own it. We can admit it. No one likes taxes. But one of the reasons that tax collectors were hated in the time of Jesus had more to do with the fact that your money was being taken from you even before you could deposit your check. Right? That's what happens with our taxes. When we get checks, they take the taxes from us. The reason that Zacchaeus was hated as a tax collector was because tax collectors were considered the greatest traitors for the Jewish people. When you were a tax collector, what that meant in the time of Jesus was that your job was to take money from your own people to pay the Romans who are not your people and who are ruling you. So you would take money from your own people who worked hard for it, and then you would give that money to the people who were oppressing your own people. So you were seen as the greatest traitor to your own people. You have a situation where, for instance, with taxes, it gets funny. You may be paying taxes, and there may be a stoplight right there that needs to be fixed, and it's not fixed, and your tax money should go to fix that stoplight. But all of a sudden, you find out that you keep paying your taxes, and hopefully they're going to fix that stoplight, and you find out that your hard-earned tax money is going to build a new fountain in City Hall. So they don't fix the problem that you need, but instead it's going to benefit somebody else who you have nothing to do with. It hurts. It makes you angry as a Jewish person to see a tax collector who's taking money from you and giving it to the people who are oppressing you. Tax collectors were hated. The other thing was that he would probably take money from the people who would give him the money. He was very wealthy, which means that he used his knowledge of the tax system to find a way to kind of take advantage of the people he was working with anyways. It's like going to a mechanic when you have no idea of how to work a car. It's like dealing with a plumber when you have no idea how to deal with plumbing. Sometimes they may charge you something that is 3 times what they should charge you, but since you have no idea what it's worth or how much it costs, you allow yourself to be taken advantage of because you don't know if you're being taken advantage of. And so the people with the tax collectors, they would come around with their special tax code, their special tax talk, and people may be giving more money than they should. And when you feel like someone is taking advantage of you, you don't like those people. Are you all right? You heard a lot of stuff, so you might be fatigued. Don't worry, this won't go long. He was hated by everybody because he was taking advantage of his own people and giving it to the money of someone else. He was wealthy, which means that he probably was taking a lot of advantage of his own people. And it said that he heard about Jesus and he wanted to run ahead. And one of the reasons he may have heard about Jesus was that Jesus was talking positively about tax collectors. He heard that Jesus was saying that even the tax collectors can get into the kingdom of God. that even tax collectors can be saved by God. So Zacchaeus now heard that there's somebody who said, even me, I am despised by my society, but even me, I can be saved. So I want to hear about Jesus. Zacchaeus must have had a hard heart. When you work a job where you are wealthy and you're taking advantage of folks and they despise you, he must have had a hard heart to just ignore them and to continue to do what he's doing. But when you are moved by greed, when you are moved by a greed that allows you to take advantage of folks, by a greed that doesn't share money with folks when they may need it, by a greed that doesn't share credit with folks when they may need it, a greed that doesn't share knowledge with folks who can be blessed by it, a greed that doesn't share information. When you have that, it's not because you're a bad person, it's probably because you're a hurt person and you're afraid. And so Zacchaeus throughout his life must have been hurt. And one of the things that it says was that he was short. And since he was so short, he could not see around the crowd when Jesus was coming. So because he was short, he had to climb a tree in order to see Jesus. Now at this time, you must realize that short must mean really short. Like Caesar Augustus, the ruler of the Roman Empire, do you know how tall he was? He was my height. 5'5". He was the ruler of Rome, and he was my height. That probably was not because Rome loved short leaders. It probably because people were just shorter. If you've ever been to a museum, you'll see that some of the armor from way back when was very small. How did they fit this armor? You know, because they were smaller. So if Zacchaeus was short, he must have been really short. So here he is, really short man, who has all this money because he was compensating probably from the people who probably rejected him when he was younger, or overlooked him, or did not notice him. Zacchaeus now, even though he has all the money in the world, all the money in the world cannot buy him 10 more inches. Cannot overcome the limitations that he probably was trying to overcome when he started taking advantage of people. That's the thing. There are things that were heard about that the money in the world cannot fix for us. There are things that we're insecure about that getting rich cannot take away. There are things that we're worried about that getting the best education or the best clothes or the best job cannot eliminate the pain of. We remain insecure. We remain hurt. We remain worried. We remain afraid. And if we don't look into ourselves and allow God to heal us, we won't be healed. Even if we make a lot of money, even if we live in a wonderful neighborhood, even if we have great clothes, you still deep down may still be hurting and insecure. And the very thing that Zacchaeus might have been insecure about might have been his height. And here it was, wealthy, out of his mind, and he still couldn't see it. So what did this short, wealthy man have to do? He had to risk looking ridiculous. And he risked looking ridiculous, so he climbed a tree. And when he climbed a tree and Jesus saw him, Jesus said, "Today, Zacchaeus, I will dine with you. Come down from the tree." And everybody there, not just the Pharisees, everybody said, "He's going to eat dinner with this guy? This guy took money from my grandmother. This guy I couldn't have the right medical treatment because I couldn't afford it because this guy took money from me. He's going to eat with this guy." And Zacchaeus now had to come down from the tree to eat with Jesus. And the moment Zacchaeus came down from the tree, he was converted, changed. He said, "I will give half of my possessions to the poor. And whoever I cheated, I will pay back 4 times the amount." What a tax refund! Woo. He was changed because he realized if I let in for God first loved me. And so now I love God. But if I say I love God and I still mistreat people, I'm a liar. And so what Zacchaeus is saying is, I love God, because you, Jesus, noticed and recognized me. And you wanted to sit with me. You wanted to dine with me. You showed me kindness and respect. And you know, that melted my heart. And so now the love of God I feel will extend to the love of people. And I will pay back the money that I took advantage from people. And I will donate to the poor. I will, as the 3 testimonies have told us, let my light shine. Conversion. But what was in the conversion? The conversion was in the phrase, come down from the tree. What he was saying was, Zacchaeus all his life was climbing something in order to feel taller than everyone else. Sometimes we make people get on their knees so we can feel taller than them. Sometimes we do things to compensate for what we are afraid of so that we can feel taller than them. But what Jesus is saying is, if you want to experience the love of God, you have to come down from whatever it is you are hiding yourself beyond and be real. Come down and relate to me in genuineness and sincerity, and I will dine with you and eat with you and love you and heal you if you're humble enough to be real with me. If we have our pain and we have whatever it is we're compensating with our pain, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's clothes. I don't know if it's boasting about where you work. I don't know if it's boasting about what train you take. I don't know if it's boasting about this. Sometimes we boast and compensate to make ourselves feel a little bigger, and that's normal and human. But the truth is that if you're still doing that and it's out of hurt and fear, then the love of God still needs to work on you. But what we read today was that perfect love casts out fear. And that doesn't mean the fear of spiders or snakes. It means the fear of being rejected by God. What God is saying is, I have already loved you as you are. So you should not be afraid of my rejecting you. Therefore, do not keep trying to make yourself taller than you are and make people feel smaller than they are just because you're afraid. Be real and realize with Zacchaeus, to have a heart that is softened, a heart where God can change, is to have the moment where God will convert our souls so that we can be a blessing in everyone else's life. The greatest thing is to be a blessing in someone else's life. And God will do that the moment we give to God our broken and hurt and worried and anxious heart and say to the Lord in prayer, Lord, here it is. I will accept your love now, because in accepting your love, then I can love others. Amen. Our hymn of commitment is hymn number 371, Have Thine Own Way, Lord.